Have you ever wondered why chiropractors become chiropractors? We've talked with many, and some have such interesting stories to tell. Luckily, Dr. Ed Plintz happens to be in our studio today, so we're going to ask him to share his story with you. Let's join him now. I know you'll find it not only interesting, but also inspiring. Dr. Plintz?
You know, as a patient, you may have wondered how your chiropractor got involved in the profession. Well, today I've been asked to tell my story and how I became a chiropractor. You know, I had a dream to become a chiropractor when I was 8 years old. And it all happened after my mother fractured her neck in a car accident when I was 4 years old. Now, I don't remember the accident. Me and my sister were both in that accident with my mother. But I do remember this. She fractured her neck, and the medics had to do an emergency fusion at the level of C4 and C5, and her neck was right in the middle of her neck here. And when they did the fusion, they kind of misaligned her a little bit, and they put her in what we call flexion, where her head was tipped a little bit forward. She started to turn blue from the neck up in both arms. Now, it's pretty horrific for a little young guy like me to see this unfold. And I do remember the doctors coming out and talking to my dad and saying, you know, she's not paralyzed, but she has excruciating migraine headaches, and the oxygen is being cut from her brain to her arms. And so you might want to make some arrangements. And I was like, arrangements? What does that mean? You know, I was 4 years old. And I remember my grandfather saying, you know, you might want to look at chiropractic as a point to help her with this problem. When we took my mother home, I remember her sitting in the chair before she went to the chiropractor in the kitchen. And she had this traction device around her neck, and it was pretty archaic. It was just this little sling, and it had this pulley system over the door. And it was a coffee can at the base of it that you would put nails in. And I got to put nails in, and that was kind of how I could hang out with my mom at that time because she was so sore and in excruciating pain. I put nails into this coffee can to alleviate the pressure off her spine. And I remember looking right into my eyes and saying, son, I'm so sorry that mommy can't play with you. And son, I'm so sorry that I hurt so bad. And I was just devastated. But I always remember what my grandfather said. He said, hey, take her to a chiropractor. And I remember his last comment. He goes, well, they can't hurt her. She already has her broken neck, so you might as well at least give them a chance. Now, here's a problem with that. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, you couldn't go to a chiropractor in Ohio, and we lived in Ohio at the time. And so we had to travel up to our cottage in Michigan, which was an hour away, to go to a chiropractor up there because Michigan had more of an open scope law at that time. Now, I tried to convince my mother at 4 years old that I was old enough to stay home by myself, but I wasn't even old enough to go to kindergarten. And so she said, no way, I have to drive one way. And probably at 44 years of age today, I probably shouldn't be home by myself either right now because I'd still get in the same trouble I would at 4 years old. But here's what happened. I had to jump in the car with her and drive an hour one way. And talk about boring, I thought at the time. But I didn't realize how it was going to change my life. All the way up to the chiropractor's office, and I got to sit in that reception area and start to watch the miracles unfold. Not only miracles in my mother, but these patients there who came in for everything else but what I thought chiropractic was for. You know, I thought chiropractic was for neck and back pain. They had people coming in with asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure. People couldn't hear, were hearing again. People couldn't see, were gaining sight back in their eyes. And I was just mesmerized as this little guy looking around and seeing these patients and what they were doing. Also, though, I got to see my mother become a human being again. She started to play with me and started to live life. And now, a wonderful mother to myself and a wonderful Nana, as my kids call her, to my children and her grandchildren. So chiropractic is amazing of what it can do by turning her power on. And I got to see this firsthand. So here's what happened. At 8 years old, I woke up from a dream and I said, I want to be a chiropractor, I want to be a chiropractor. And I actually came running down the steps. And everybody laughed about that. And they said, a chiropractor? You mean a chiropractor? And I said, yeah. And I was still going to the chiropractor's office with my mother. And I started asking this gentleman all types of questions about what he was doing and why he was doing this and why he was doing that. And he was an older gentleman at the time. And man, I was just driving him nuts. And he said, you know what? You're an intuitive young man, and I love that, but you're driving me crazy. So what I'll do is I'll give you a job on Saturdays that you can broom sweep my office, and if you keep it clean, you can talk to me for an hour, ask me any questions you want. And I sat there and I would say, well, why did this person come in with that? And why are you adjusting children? You know, kids don't have bad backs, right? You probably thought that yourself, moms and dads, but no, they have brain and nervous system and it needs to be cleared so they can be healthy adults. He took me to my first seminars when I was 12 years old. Man, I was blessed to have this individual in my life. Matter of fact, ironically enough, we're shooting this in Arizona right now. He moved to Arizona and retired. He sold the practice to a gentleman who became my first philosophical mentor. Took me to philosophical seminars, had me read books on why to become a chiropractor as opposed to how. And then I graduated high school and went on to Palmer College to get my degree. So here was a neat thing. From age 12 all the way through age 19, I was working in a chiropractor's office and in a chiropractor's office consistently since age 4. So I'm kind of like the oldest, youngest chiropractor you ever meet. So it was kind of neat. Went to Palmer College, man, it had the time of my life. I took the curriculum by storm, had a blast, wanted to learn everything I possibly could about chiropractic so I could take it back to my community and share this lifestyle of vitality and health and wellness to everyone I knew. And I did just that. I graduated, came back to my hometown, opened up my clinic, and started to spread the message. And you know what? The message was healthier people equals a healthier planet. Chiropractic today for healthier people tomorrow. Specifically, the children of today. You know, adults, we can only do so much with us. We can do real good. We can stabilize, we can keep ourselves healthy, but there's a lot of things that happened to us and that we did before we knew really what the chiropractic lifestyle is now. The true gift of life and health is to our children. And through chiropractic, we learn just that. That we could give this gift of life and health to every child in everybody's family so they can be a healthier adult. Now, I don't know if you ever thought about this as being a patient, but maybe you want to ask your chiropractor what his or her story is of how they got involved in the profession.